What is going on, IF Warriors? It's your boy Edward V. And if you're doing intermittent fasting, but somehow you're still fat and you're trying to lose all of that weight, but you're not understanding why it's not coming off, I'm going to tackle two of the major reasons that might be causing you to not reduce body fat. We're going to break it down in this video. Stay tuned. Before we get into this video is brought to you by Flex Pro Meals. If you haven't used Flex Pro Meals yet, it is very, very good for calorie and macro control. They bring the meals right up to your doorstep. All you have to do is put them in the freezer, and when you're ready to eat them, within a couple of minutes, you will be all set. The meals have been built and cooked by gourmet chefs. They have a large menu, and they even have a keto menu if that's what you're looking for. And don't forget, if you use the promo code FLEDGE20, you'll get 20% off your entire first order. Now let's jump into the video. Now, the two main elements that may be affecting your weight loss and your body fat loss specifically is leptin and metabolism. Now, the rate of your metabolism, your basal metabolic rate, and the hormone leptin. Now, intermittent fasting actually can help increase and improve both of these. So it actually helps protect your basal metabolic rate because retaining muscle and reducing body fat, muscle is the primary driver of your basal metabolic rate. So if you can do that, if you can retain muscle and reduce body fat, you can also positively affect your basal metabolic rate. Leptin resistance is decreased and leptin is increased in your body when intermittent fasting, and this is the signaling hormone to your brain that you're actually full. Without that signaling hormone, you may not feel the satiety, you may not feel satiated with the foods that you're eating, and it could lead to you eating more food during your feeding time. However, just because intermittent fasting does improve these two things, that doesn't mean that you're not doing things throughout the day that can negatively impact these two things that are fighting against you and fighting against the positive benefits that come with intermittent fasting. So you want to make sure that you are correcting these issues so that you can push forward towards body fat loss. Let's go ahead and tackle leptin first. The first major reason is lack of sleep and sleep time consistency. If you're not sleeping for a good amount of time, usually around 7 hours minimum, you may be affecting leptin. Studies have shown that a lack of sleep increases leptin resistance. And when leptin resistance increases, your brain doesn't signal to your body that you're full when you're actually full, thus leading to less satiety and eating more food. So you want to get a good night's sleep. You want to be able to sleep throughout those 6 and 7 hours. I would suggest creating an action chunking situation. And if you need more details on what action chunking is, you can click on this video here and it'll take you there and break the entire thing down for you. But basically, in simple terms, it's just creating sequences of habits so that each individual habit has a lot of power and you will be able to follow through because of the sequence. So going to the gym in the morning, going to work, coming home, eating, then doing some sort of cardio, then going to sleep. Because you have a sequence of habits, every single individual habit gets improved. And for sleeping, if you're having trouble sleeping, if you, for example, only go to your bed when you're about to sleep and not use your bed to watch TV or to eat or do anything else that can distract your brain and signal that maybe you're not sleeping right now, maybe you just want to watch TV, maybe you just want to eat, use your bed only for sleeping and it'll improve your sleep. Another thing that you can do is make sure that you push all electronics, everything away from you, because those are the biggest distracting factors when it comes to sleeping, especially your phone. If you take all of the electronics and distracting elements away from you and you just lay down in your bed, you can improve your ability to go to sleep much faster. Try to go to sleep a little bit earlier too, so that you can get those good 7 hours or 8 hours of sleep. That will help with leptin resistance by decreasing it, and then your brain will be in line with your stomach and it can signal that you're full much faster. Another thing that can cause leptin resistance is eating simple carbs. Now, carbohydrates can definitely help you nutrition wise, especially plant-based foods. Things like broccoli are really, really good. All of those plant-based foods that have a lot of fiber, those kind of carbs are actually good for you, and you can can feel full with a good amount of them without going so high in calories. But simple carbs, something like a glazed donut, for example, can have up to 300 calories, but you might not feel satiated. So you won't feel full the same way if you ate 300 calories of meat. You'll feel more full from 300 calories of meat than you would from a glazed donut. You can probably take in a few glazed donuts if you wanted to. But the unfortunate thing is that eating too much of those things, because they lack that satiety and that leptin release, it makes you more leptin resistant because those things don't signal to your brain quick enough that you're full. It makes it easier for you to eat a lot of those foods. You can have some simple carbs, but you want to avoid it and don't make it the main course. Don't make those things the main thing that you're eating throughout the day on a weekly basis. And bouncing off of that, binge eating. Try to avoid binge eating. The best way that I've seen that binge eating can be avoided is planning out your meals. If you're eating sporadically or if you're eating spontaneously, it's much harder for you to focus on eating healthier because you're just spontaneously grabbing items to eat. And this can lend to binge eating because you didn't have a plan. You didn't have a set calorie number. You didn't have exactly what you were going to eat. And then you're just kind of winging it. So you're eating anything that you can find. And then that can make you easily overeat during your feeding window. And when you're overeating, when you're binge eating, leptin resistance is increased. And of course, you want to avoid that. So those are the ways that you can keep working towards the hormone leptin and having it work in your favor. Avoiding binge eating, avoiding eating too many simple carbs, and getting a good night rest. Now let's move on to the basal metabolic rate and how to get a good control over the basal metabolic rate. First thing we're going to talk about is lack of cardio. Lowering your resting heart rate and improving your cardiovascular system is super important in promoting things like insulin sensitivity and your metabolic rate, which can definitely help with the intermittent fasting in terms of creating a stacking element with insulin sensitivity. So intermittent fasting is providing insulin sensitivity. So is improved cardiovascular health. Both of those things are improving your insulin sensitivity, which can assist with your body burning body fat. Now, another element that you might want to avoid is aggressive cardio. Going too hard with the cardio, which can create chronic cortisol increase, which is bad. Cortisol in and of itself isn't bad because when you're working out, there's always going to be a cortisol release. This is what helps build muscle. You're going to be in that stress zone when you're working out. If you have chronic cortisol, that's what's bad. Having that hormone excrete throughout your body consistently is going to affect you negatively. It's going to hold on to weight. So don't be too aggressive. Don't do 2 hours, 3 hours of cardio or just go to the gym and only do cardio. Maybe 30 minutes of high intensity interval training might be good for you. And bouncing off of that, doing resistance training, working out your muscles. It could be calisthenics or it can just be lifting weights, but resistance training is important because the more muscle you have in your body, the better your basal metabolic rate will be, as that is the primary driver for your basal metabolic rate. And if you're just doing cardio and not doing resistance training, the cardio will probably start eating at your muscle. So you want to protect your muscles as much as you can. Intermittent fasting helps protect muscle with muscle retention with the growth hormone increase. That helps protect muscles, but there still have to be some outside elements that also protect muscles, and weight resistance training or resistance training helps to do that because you're creating the correct signals to your body to say, hey, I have this muscle and I'm utilizing this muscle, thus I want to keep this muscle on my body. So the main thing that needs to be done to protect muscle is actually utilizing those muscles. And if you protect muscle, you also protect your basal metabolic rate. And the final thing that I want to touch on is reducing your calories too aggressively, going so low that your basal metabolic rate starts to adjust slightly to that new low calorie, giving you that plateau effect. This is one of the major reasons why people hit a plateau, and it's because they hit that wall where the metabolic rate is trying to adjust itself slowly to the new caloric deficit that you've aggressively attached to it. So try not to aggressively reduce your calories. Try to reduce your calories, of course, but not in an aggressive fashion where the metabolic rate can be suppressed. It's called metabolic adaptation, and it will adapt to the amount of calories that you're taking in. And the reason your body does this is a survival mechanism. It wants to be able to survive with where the world is for your body at the time. You can purposely reduce your calories, but your body would read that as these are the calories that you're allowed to eat or that you have access to throughout the day. So your body will activate its defense mechanism and lower your basal metabolic rate. Intermittent fasting doesn't lower your metabolic rate. The reduction in calories and aggressive reduction in calories, that lowers your metabolic rate. Remember, intermittent fasting helps protect your basal metabolic rate by sending the correct signals to protect muscle, which is the primary driver, and reduce body fat, which can affect metabolic rate. So try not to work against it by reducing your calories too aggressively. The two main reasons why people can hit plateaus while doing intermittent fasting is definitely leptin and your basal metabolic rate. If you get those in order, considering the fact that intermittent fasting actually helps improve both of these, you want to make sure that what you're doing throughout the day isn't fighting against the positive effects that come from intermittent fasting and causing body fat to stall. And of course, I want to thank my patrons for my Patreon, and I'm going to go ahead and put their names right up here.